How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. We just left the hospital where we just felt like we really needed to get checked up for either sleepwalking, being paranoid, something or other. I don't think a single thing came from going out to the hospital, which kind of sucks, but at least we got to fill out a little questionnaire there at the end. That was engaging, I guess. No, I don't think sleepwalking is the issue, but I said this in earlier episodes, but perspective is such a key thing, and, I think that's probably the problem here. We have a delusional main character. There's probably something else that's going on that we're just not seeing. I don't know what that something else is. Who knows? By the time I got back to Shibuya, it was evening. The hospital itself was in Shibuya Ward, but the closest station was Yoyogi. Taking the train, was the fastest way to get there and back. The Yamanote line was as crowded as ever, though, and riding just 2 stations was enough to make me feel exhausted. I didn't think I was up for getting on another train, so I decided to walk from Shibuya Station to the base. There were just too many people at the stations. I hated crowds. They always made me feel like I was going to pass out. I didn't want to spend any more time there than I had to, so I quickly tried to get across Scramble Crossing. That area was so packed it was hard to even walk in a straight line. If you didn't keep at a steady forward pace, you'd run into the people walking beside you or get hit from behind. There were also people blocking your path, trying to hand you packs of tissues with ads on them. They'd even force them into your pocket. I ignored the first one, but the second one was a cute lady, so I took some from her. These tissue people were just the worst. They shouldn't have been allowed to stand in the middle of the sidewalk like that. I took the tissues anyway, though, since they were free, and we could use them later on. They might be good. I looked at the tissues I'd been given. This pack came with a small flyer with white text on a red background. It was a pretty weird color combination, kind of spooky. It wasn't a combination you saw often, that much I was sure of. I read the flyer as I walked along. There's a shortage of Type B blood. There's currently a serious shortage of Type B blood in Shibuya. We may no longer be able to deliver blood to all the patients that need it, and people may die. Without your blood donation, he will not survive. Please come to the blood donation center. Who's he? Who's he here? It was a flyer for a blood donation service. As I looked at it, I thought back to the worksheet I'd been given at the hospital. I hadn't seen anything like it when I'd gone there 4 years ago. Maybe it was some kind of new diagnostic that had only gotten popular over the last few years. But still, I felt like I'd seen it before. Deja vu. Again, it felt like that was happening all the time lately. That might be our problem. It was really creepy when your body and mind refused to do what you wanted them to, so I tried to dig through my memories to find out what was going on with this deja vu. Yeah, even I'm curious. My mother used to take me to the hospital about once a week. No matter what they asked, I'd never respond. I'd just move my head up and down or side to side. At first, they saw me in a normal exam room, but when I showed no signs of recovery, they started sending me someplace different. The other place was some kind of counseling room. It had a sofa and lots of stuffed animals, and seemed to have been decorated with the aim of putting the patient at ease. Dr. Takashina never blamed anybody. He just kept trying to make me better. He was the only one who figured out that I could speak, but just didn't want to say anything. My mother would always talk to me in a deliberately chipper voice. Dr. Takashina would always welcome me with a bright smile. The nurses were always kind too, and it felt to me like there had always been somebody else in that room. Okay, it's this scene again. Oh, look at that man in the background. Right, he was always wearing a dark black suit. It was a weird outfit to see in a hospital. He was just as quiet as I was. I don't think I'd ever heard him talk. I never did figure out who he was. He didn't feel like a doctor. He always just stood off to the side looking out the window. I always called him Mr. Nozomi. He'd never actually given me his name, though.
Nozomi.
Why does that sound familiar? The man in the suit always wore a small badge. It read Nozomi. It looked like a logo of some kind, so it probably wasn't a name tag. Yeah, the worksheet had the Nozomi logo on it too. No wonder I thought I'd seen it somewhere before. I felt a little better now that the mystery was solved. What was Nozomi, though? It was clearly the name of some kind of company, excuse me.
のぞみさんっていう美人女社長が設立したカウンターテロ組織とか、漫画みたいだ。
Yeah, I don't know about that one. But also, maybe. This is the science adventure series, after all. Who knows? I definitely don't know. I just make ridiculous guesses and assumptions and all that. When I got back to the base, I ran a search for Nozomi, but it was just a common word that meant wish in Japan too, so there were too many results to narrow down. Thinking back, the logical assumption was that Mr. Nozomi worked for a company that made those worksheets and was a salesman that had been visiting the hospital. Sometime recently, he'd finally managed to sell the hospital on using the sheets. Today, I'd been asked to fill one of them out. No, wait, that was impossible. I'd never heard of a salesman or somebody on the outside being allowed to sit in on a patient's sessions. Just who was that guy? Crap, now I had another nagging memory to deal with. And at least I'd figure out where the deja vu was coming from. I decided that next week I would ask the doctor about my memories. Until then, I'd forget about school and just stay in my room. I couldn't go to school if there was someone there trying to hurt me. I didn't want to break my schedule, but it wouldn't do me any good if I was dead. I gave up on my search for Nozomi and went to @channel to see if there were any interesting threads. That's what I do with Reddit. The news board was filled with nothing but New Generation Madness threads. Alright, so yeah, we've got the group dive, the pregnant man, crucified, so we just don't have the next one. The news board was filled... Oh, I already read that, haha. Even the ESO board had a recreate the NewGen murders in ESO thread going. I was getting sick of it. Honestly, I'd be pretty fucking annoyed of it as well. If you're trying to go somewhere to escape everything in reality, and reality's kind of coming to you. When I logged into ESO, Grim was there. Curious to talk with this Grim fella. @Chan's news boards have been boring as hell lately. It's all new gen crap. Well, it's the biggest story right now. Every time there's a new case, it's a big festival. Everybody goes crazy. They haven't caught the killer yet? Well, you know, the cops are morons, lol. Some idiots have even decided that it's actually a cute moe girl. That demon girl. Visions of the dark eyes of the girl I'd seen during the crucifixion. Sorry, I can't speak. I am stupid. Killing came back to me and I shivered. That also doesn't help that there's text literally layered over text. I didn't want to remember it at all, but the slightest little thing and the memories came flooding back. I'd seen the killer's face. I know who she was. Should I have told the cops? But I didn't want to get involved. Demon Girl? Is that the latest variation? That's going a little too far. Anyway, New Gen is just fascinating stuff. I joined a New Gen community on what the fuck? They're getting too into it. The only ones in our guild who aren't into it are you and Big Sis... Who the hell? Geji? Seriously? If that was true, then I wouldn't be able to keep up with the discussion in our chat channel. New Gen's just really messed up stuff. It's crazy to read about. I knew you were into Guro stuff. But don't tell me you're the kind of guy who wants to see art in his murders. That crucified corpse was such a mess. I thought it was some kind of art piece for a minute. If you wanted to call it artwork, I guess you could. Nah. It'd be better if they add some perverted sexual element to them, right? It's like the ultimate kind of S&M. This guy's a goner. Somebody needs to do something about him. Once you lose your virginity, you'll understand. Wait, is that a thing? So you're telling me you're not a virgin? I don't know how to react or commentate on these faces. You traitor. What is ORS? There's all kinds of stuff to do on the aggregator sites. Take a look sometime. Well, hold on. We're going to go to the tips website. So, oars. It is an emoji that shows a person dropped on all fours in a depressed state. The O is the head. The R is the hands and torso. And the Z are the legs. I don't really see it. No, I don't. Oh, you know what? I kind of do. I really, yeah, you know what? Okay. The O is the head. The R, basically the vertical line of the R is your hand. The curvature of the R is the rest of the body that connects to the top of the Z. And then there's the legs. Am I looking at that right? I think I got it. Okay. I didn't want to look at them. They scared me. I wanted to run away from the fact that I'd been at the murder scene, and that's why I'd cut myself off from all information about NewGen. That was how I had hoped I could convince myself that it was all just a delusion, but in ESO, I was practically a god. It wasn't enough to be strong, I had to know everything. Especially since I was kind of a leader in the guild. If I was supposed to be the leader, but I couldn't keep up with what everyone was talking about, it would just be embarrassing. I had to avoid that. Well, time to go searching for shit we probably shouldn't be, searching for, especially without a VPN. Don't worry, there's no VPN ads here. Nobody wants to sponsor me like that. I went to the address that Grimm gave me. The top banner read NewGen Aggregator in big letters. Aggregator sites were kind of a wiki, where any number of people could add information to articles about a certain topic. A NewGen Aggregator site would have information about NewGen, constantly updated by different users. Some of that information wasn't trustworthy in the slightest, and sometimes there were trolls, but if you wanted an easy way to get a handle on the basic facts of something, it was good. There were always tons of links for one thing. I decided to start with an article called The Case So Far. My pulse started to quicken. Just reading the site was enough to make me nervous. I could feel the sweat forming on my hands. Oh yeah, this is beautiful. The first case, the one they called Group Dive, was when a group of 5 boys and girls from a high school had all jumped off a building. I thought it was actually all girls, so I don't know. That's interesting. Just the fact that it happened, it's very Subahibi-like. It happened on September 7th, about a month ago. It was in the middle of the night at a place called Shibuya Cornelius Tower. The 5 had jumped off the building's helipad and died instantly on impact. The autopsy showed that each of them had DNA belonging to someone else under their nails, and there were scratch marks found too. It was theorized from this that the 5 of them must have jumped off while holding hands. There was no sign of any kind of suicide note left on the roof. Below the summary was some information added by some internet detective, and these types were often referred to as snakes, who had actually gone to Cornelius Tower. According to him, the roof was off limits to visitors, and the door to it was kept locked at all times. Of course, it was locked at the time of the jump too. None of the deceased had a key on their bodies when they'd been found. And this meant that the helipad was, in a way, a locked room. Like you saw in murder mysteries, there was nothing to suggest how the 5 of them had gotten up there. It was entirely likely that someone else had been there as well. The second case, the pregnant man, happened on September 19th, around 12 days after the first. Early in the morning near a Shibuya Station underpass, a college student was walking home from karaoke when they found a blood-stained man collapsed on the ground. The collapsed man was a university student who lived in Shibuya Ward named Chizuo Konoe, age 21. He was dead when he was found, but he had an unnatural bulge in his stomach. The autopsy showed that someone had opened up his chest, shoved a newborn baby into his stomach, and then sewn him back up. So they took an actual baby. Oh my god. Okay. I thought what it was originally, but no, that's right. There were 7 deaths before the crucifixion. So what I was thinking for a moment was that they took a pregnant woman, killed her, took what was inside of her, and then shoved it into the man, which I think is more fucked up, but I'm not really trying to, rank the levels of fucked up, the fucked upness. Is that a word? No, it's not. I already failed to pronounce it. In addition, DNA analysis had shown that there was no relation between the baby and the man. He was, according to reports, unmarried and had no girlfriend, so I'm assuming the baby's dead. The rest of it was internet speculation, but the baby appeared to be in the 32nd week of pregnancy, okay. Which would have meant that it was probably removed from the mother by C-section. Who the mother was, though, or where she was, or what she was doing, or even if she was alive or dead, none of that was known. It was possible that the cops knew, but if they did, they weren't talking. So I guess the fucked up shit that I was just talking about could have been somewhat truth. There could be a third death here. A baby that wasn't ready to come out, was C-sectioned out, and yeah, there you go. I looked away from the monitor feeling like I was about to throw up. This was disgusting. The killer was insane. I knew that for sure, and it was also possible. She doesn't come off as creepy. It's just kind of strange that, you know, pink-haired anime girl committing murder and all that. Haha. That girl had been behind these horrible murders. Unless... Well, Japan's what the fuck? I don't know about that one. That's a little bit of weird meta-commentary. I took a moment to gaze at my beautiful Seroton. Looking at her helped calm me down. I thought about taking the sedatives the doctor had given me, but for now, Seroton was good enough. Still, though, I had to do it to keep up Neidhart's reputation as a leader, but reading these hurt. Are we having a delusion? Why are we having a delusion?
そんなに辛いならさ、読まなくていいって。
Yeah, honestly. I mean, that's actually good internal advice.
タッキーがド M ってんなら別に止めないけど、辛そうなタッキーは見てられないさ。もうやめよう。楽しいことだけしてようよ。いつもみたく私にハーハーしてもいいからさ。
Okay, that's terrible internal advice. Seroton was such a nice girl. She was my only true ally, my wife. If that's what you want to call it, buddy. I put my elbow on the table and rested my head in my hand, taking deep breaths as I stared at Seroton's smile. I feel so much better. Maybe I could read a little more if I took breaks to glance over at Seroton. I decided to give it a try. Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm ready to read more fucked up shit. Why had these two seemingly separate incidents had both been given the label, New Generation Madness, excuse me. The group dive was treated as just a suicide at first. But after the pregnant man case, the net started taking another look at the group dive and found out how many strange elements there were to the case. Speculation began that it was actually a murder and not suicide. Supposedly, the parents of the dead kids and their friends all said that there is no way they could have killed themselves. Since both the cases were in Shibuya, a traditional center for young people, the news started calling it the madness created by the new generation of youth, and then simply the New Generation Madness. The name stuck. And then there was the third case, the crucified murder, they were calling it. That was the one I'd seen. The Aggregator site didn't have much information on the case because it was so new. The murdered man was Hisa Ota, a 56-year-old college professor. He'd been nailed with stakes to the concrete wall of an empty house. Starting at 8 o'clock p.m., the estimated time of the crime, neighbors heard what sounded like something hammering a nail. The sound lasted for approximately an hour. Oh my god. I'd heard that sound too. I could still hear it. It was an awful sound. For what it was worth, no connection had been found between it and the group dive or the pregnant man. But after 3 bizarre incidents in the same city of Shibuya, everyone naturally treated the crucified murder as the third part of the New Generation Madness. The media and the police were saying that all 3 were committed by different individuals, but the position, or rather hope, of most people online was that it was a single person, or failing that, a single group. There were some bizarre theories involving the occult going around too, and some people were saying NewGen got its start in the earthquake 2 months ago. 2 months ago, there had been an Intensity 3 earthquake in Shibuya. An Intensity 3 quake was small enough that you could be walking down the street and not feel it. But despite the small size of the quake, it had made the news because 8 people had died. Looking back, it was true that the NewGen incidents had started after the earthquake. So the proponents of the occult theory were saying that the 8 deaths in the earthquake could be counted as the first NewGen case. Sometimes they'd get into arguments with the more mainstream NewGen theorists. No matter who was behind it, it was bizarre that 3 such incidents could happen without a single clue as to who was behind it. A lot of people online were eagerly awaiting a 4th incident too. Oh, and how are we going to be involved? If I wasn't directly involved, I might have been all, what the fuck? What is that? WKTK myself? I actually don't know what that is. Is that a term that has popped up in the yeah, you know what it is. Hopeful and excited. Gotcha. There we go. See, the tips come in clutch. You guys have told me that before, and I didn't listen, but you know what? You guys are right. Participating in the festival and eagerly waiting for a 4th incident too. Damn it. They were all having so much fun when I was feeling miserable. It do happen.
犯人を早く捕まえてくれよ。
It'd been over a week since Crucified, and there'd been nothing from the demon girl or the police. If they knew I was there, at a minimum the police would have come to talk to me, but there was no sign of them. Whew. Looked like I was going to be able to stay out of this and not get involved. Unless... yeah, there we go. Yua's words flashed through my mind.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Just when I was about to finally relax, I suddenly found myself feeling awful again. The photos that Shogun had sent me, they were still stored in my computer. Everything Yua had said was just a figment of her own delusions. It was crazy. It wasn't even a real theory. I hadn't been able to ask about it at the hospital, but there's no way I could have been someplace else while I was awake, doing something I didn't remember. It was impossible. It had never happened before, for one thing. Those Guro photos had to be fake.
だったらさ。
Then they are, haha.
合成だって証拠を見つけちゃえばいいさ。あの画像解析しちゃおうよ。
But they're creepy, and I don't really want to look at them.
あの女を論破しちゃえば、タッキーはもう怯えることなく平穏な生活に戻れるんだよ。やるしかないっしょ。
Yeah, that's right. Yua seemed convinced that I was the one behind Crucified, but that was impossible. I'd seen the person who actually done it. I couldn't let her blame me for the crime. I gulped and double-clicked to open the folder where my cache was stored. The name of the chapter is Click Me, so we should keep that in mind. Alright, what's going on here? Yasuji Ban entered the big conference hall at the Shibuya police station for the first time in 3 days. The conference for what was being called the Maruyamacho crucifixion murder had already begun, and some of the officers were glaring at him for being late. Ban forced a weak smile at them before sitting down, telling them he'd been in the toilet. Throwing up didn't seem like it would suit the current mood of the room. They'd assembled a task force to handle the Maruyama crucifixion murder the morning after the incident. Between the Cornelius Tower Group suicide and the Shibuya Station area man-baby murder cases, the police force was already stretched thin. So even Ban, a nobody lieutenant from Section 1 of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, had been sent in to help out the Shibuya ward cops. Since all 3 cases had happened in the jurisdiction of the Shibuya police, there was now a highly unusual situation: 3 different special task forces at a single station. Because of this, the team had to take turns scheduling their day in the big conference room. Since the media kept calling it the New Generation Madness, there was a rumor going around that they were going to resolve the shortage of officers by bringing all three together, under a NewGen special task force. All of the officers thought it was a stupid idea, but that didn't mean it wouldn't happen.
警部補、君の報告を。
Captain Matsunaga was Ban's boss, and the leader of the task force. He glanced sharply at Ban. But Ban didn't notice. He took a deep breath while waving a paper fan at his face.
警部補、バン警部補、聞いているのか？
呼ばれてるっすよ。バンさんの報告待ちなんすから。ちょっと。
Only when Ban's partner, a rookie detective named Suwa, whispered to him did he realize he was being called on.
すんません。報告は諏訪から。
Alright, well this guy looks like a real winner.
自分っすか？
俺がいなくても報告しとけって言っといたろうが。早くしろ。
After a sharp elbow from his older partner, Suwa sighed and stood up.
犯行現場近くの監視カメラの解析がようやく出たっす。出ました。犯行時間に不審な人物が映ってました。
Murmurs broke out in the room. The air instantly became tense. The detectives from the Shibuya police all began to scribble down notes, careful not to miss anything he said. They were desperate to solve this case. There had been 2 brutal murders, the group dive was still classified as a suicide, in the span of a single month in their district. They needed to catch the person responsible, and now, even if it meant dropping their usual stoic demeanor.
プロジェクターに映像を出します。
Is it who we think it is? Well, there's nobody there. Suwa put up an image on the projector screen just like Ban had told him to do before they'd started. It showed a narrow, dirty back alley in Maruyamacho, and it was night. There were a few lights, so it was hard to see much of anything at all.
犯行現場から約50メートル離れたところにあるコインパーキングの監視カメラです。
The parking lot was a tiny one, with no more than 2 spaces. It was located on a tiny strip of land crammed between buildings. From here, you couldn't see the crime scene. You could barely see the road in front of it. It showed the road a street away from where the killing took place. There was no audio on it either. The footage had a timestamp in the bottom right. It read 21:34.
犯行現場近隣の住民の証言により、21時過ぎから21時半頃まで釘を打ちつける音がしていたというのはご承知の通りだと思いますが、この映像は21時34分。つまりまさに犯行時間直後ということになります。不審人物が映っているのは21時34分53秒からおよそ6秒間です。駐車場の前の道を奥から手前へと走り抜けていきます。
Yep, there he is. Just then a person appeared on the screen. They were running toward the camera in a clearly disturbed manner. The camera's resolution was low enough that it was hard to immediately tell if the person was male or female, but Bond had already spoken to the science lab and had them analyze it.
科捜研で解析した結果、映っている人物は男。年齢は10代後半から20代とのことっす。です。人相の判別までは無理でした。服装がかなり特徴的ですが、これは小島にある私立水明学園の男子制服と分かりました。それと右手に注目してもらいたいんですが。
He's holding a fucking steak. The image changed to a close-up of the person's hand. It was holding something.
スローで再生するとわかるが、走りながら腕を振っている際、この握りしめている何かが駐車場の照明に反射して光を放ってるんだな、これが。
When it was time to reveal the big discovery, Bond took over.
形状からして犯行に使われた十字架型の杭である可能性がある。
More murmurs from the detectives. The killer behind the crucified murder might be a teenager, and that was a shock. Maybe the media's new generation madness was more than just a catchy slogan.
最も犯人に近い人物がこの少年だということか。
そういうことになりますね。
Bond stroked his unshaven chin. It was a habit of his. Whenever he got a step closer to finding a criminal, he'd run his fingers through the stubble and enjoy his victory. Excuse me.
以上です。
Suwa sighed and sat down.
ひどいっすよ先輩。美味しいところ持ってって。
Bond ignored Sua's complaints and stared at the image of the teenage boy on the projector.
ようやく尻尾を出したんだ。そいつを掴んで離さねえようにしないとな。
Yeah, it's pretty interesting here. You know what? I'm excited to see this other perspective here. This is exactly what I was asking for. Let us see an outside perspective. All right. We're going to go look at some beautiful images here, aren't we? I like this animation. I found the image Shogun sent me in my cache folder. It was a JPEG numbered 168491. There is still a big part of me that didn't want to look at it. I mean, it was disgusting. If I looked at it, I was sure to remember the scene as it was in the real world. No, but if I was going to prove you were wrong and prove my innocence, and that I was safe, I would need proof. Seroton was here to help too. I could handle a little gore. I worked up my courage and double-clicked on the file to open it. Yeah, just read some, like, fucked up hentai as well, you know, it does help. Yeah, it was gory alright, but compared to what I'd seen in the real world, it wasn't that bad. And it was a fake too, right? I could handle it. The first time I looked at it, I'd only taken a quick glance before closing it. I hadn't looked at the whole image from top to bottom. This time I was able to take a closer look, even if I had to suppress the urge to vomit. I didn't know how to tell if an image was fake. Did you look at the direction of the shadows, the background, things like that, and see if anything was wrong? It seemed to me the most likely possibility was that they'd taken a photo of the alley first and then added in the staked corpse later. And then the day after Shogun sent this to me, they'd carried out the murder just like in this photo. Because of the darkness and the low resolution of the photo, I couldn't tell much about the body, only the stakes were clearly visible. The light was focused on the area surrounding the corpse, as if that was the only thing they wanted the viewer to see. It felt like whoever had taken the picture had framed it like that deliberately. There is no way the light shining right on the body had nowhere else was on the body and nowhere else was a coincidence, excuse me. Or maybe it was a coincidence. I hadn't gotten a clear look at the scene when I was there for real, and I couldn't say for sure. The demon girl wasn't in the picture. But if you stared at the picture until you thought your eyes would bleed, you could make out what looked like a person in the darkness on the left edge. No. I almost missed it. I don't see that. I'm pretty damn sure I don't see another person here. Between the low resolution and how they were standing in the shadows, they were almost impossible to spot. On my first glance, I missed them completely. This was a doctored photo, or it should have been. So maybe the person who took it let themselves get photographed by mistake. Yeah, I don't see it. Left edge. No, I don't see shit. I'm sorry. I don't see it in my on my other monitor, which has a little bit of a different contrast ratio, so no, I don't see shit. Sorry, gamers. I'm not a real fan. And forgot to delete when they added it in the corpse. Okay. They were wearing a Sume uniform. It must have been that demon girl then. She wore one too. But the person in the photo seemed to have short hair. The demon girl had long hair, so did Yua. I decided to use the image processing software to make it easier to see. I booted up the software and dragged the image on top of it. Then I gulped before going to the level adjustment slider in the menu. I made the photo brighter and what are we gonna see? Oh, that's not good. That is not good. That is not good. This is an image. Oh shit, this is an image that was taken that night of, but we saw it the night before. What was this?
なんだこれ。
The person in the photo was without question.
僕だ。
Why me? This made no sense. I'd never even been there until September 29th. This was fake too, it had to be. I couldn't find any evidence of it at all, but it was definitely fake. It had to be. Shogun had sent it to me on the 28th, and the crucified killing had happened on the 29th. If this photo showed what happened on the 29th, it would be a photo of the future.
あなたには予知能力がありますか？
Well, shit, I think we kind of fucking did, huh?
うるさい、そんなはずはないんだ。
I kicked an empty plastic bottle at my feet and shut down the image program. I opened up the properties menu to see when this JPEG file was created, and then I gasped. It had been created on the 28th, but that didn't matter now. There was something written in the comments section of the properties window. That's what my eyes were glued to. Motherfucker. What the fuck? What the hell? It's like there's another side of us we're totally unaware of that's just trolling, you know, us. And, oh my god. How could that be, though, you know? I slammed my fingers down on the keyboard before pushing it to the side of the desk and cradling my head in my hands.
セーラ助けて。
I tried to stop myself from crying. What the hell had been going on this whole week? Why was all this happening to me? Wait a second. Say Shogun had gotten a photo of me from somewhere and used it to put me into this Guro photo. That would mean they'd either taken the photo of me themselves, well before the murder, or gotten a photo of me from someone or some other place. Given that they'd come into the chat room out of nowhere and started talking as soon as Grim left, they were after me from the start. Maybe Shogun knew who I was then. If he did, there was no telling when he or the demon girl would attack the base, and then they'd kidnap me. I felt the prickling on the back of my neck, that gaze again. I was being watched by someone. Don't look at me. I refused to look behind me. Time for the I'm not turning around so easily game, but we're in our fucking, room. I was shaking with terror. I wanted to go check the lock on the door, but if I looked around, I'd lose. I stubbornly stared at the monitor instead. We could have somebody, literally in here, and there's, nothing we can do about it. To calm myself, I opened up a word processor program and typed the thoughts that came to me. And now they're going to be reading our thoughts. How foolish.
きっとそうに決まってる。
So demon girl equals murderer, can see the future. Shogun equals working for the demon girl. Yua equals working for Shogun. As I stared, quivering at the word demon, I started to wonder if the girl I'd seen at the murder scene really was one. Yeah, she wasn't human. That had to be it. And maybe that's how she was able to see the future. Her demon powers would let her create a photo of what was going to happen. That would explain how she could do that terrible crucified murder all by herself, too. That Shogun worked for her. They knew I was going to witness the crime by accident, so they sent me the image in advance. I didn't know why. Maybe it was a threat. If you tell anyone, this is what will happen to you next. Or maybe it was a warning. A death sentence telling me that I'd be next. If that was the case.
勝てるわけがない。僕は奴らにいつ殺されてもおかしくないんだ。
What's happening? Oh, okay. What is this? Where are we? Oh, we're with Yua now. Perfect. Fantastic. Alright, well, we'll end the episode here. I am keeping the episodes a little bit further away from an hour like I had stated, I think, maybe in the beginning of this playthrough. Solely because I am waiting for the big ol' patch to, well, make things not censored and clean things up. This and that. I already talked about that with the Committee of Zero. So, not speeding through this as quickly as I had planned in the beginning. But since there is hope, I am being a little slower than I originally anticipated, which is fine. You know, we'll really get going here soon. But I am wondering, you know, just what is going on? Who is Grim? And, you know, I like my little theory of maybe we have like another personality that we just don't know about, which is a huge likeliness. This wouldn't be the first visual novel where somebody was fucking walking around with multiple personality disorder, and there's no way you can know because, again, perspective, that's such a huge thing. So I wonder, what could be going on here? Shogun really could just be us, and we could have some sort of ability. I don't know, you know? Who knows? Definitely not me. But yeah, thank you all for watching this episode. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy.